Here's the deal. Jodie Emery, Laura Balance, and of course Lee Checkstead in tonight. We're going to start with political ads. Have you heard the new Conservative ad on the radio?
I've heard the one, not about the marijuana story, but the other one attacking him for being over his head again.
So obviously the Conservatives taking shots at Justin Trudeau, saying that he's over his head. The one I'm hearing, and I apologize that we didn't manage to get it for our audience, but it's a woman's voice, and she says, you know, with everything that's going on in the world today, I've got enough to worry about. Now Justin Trudeau wants to put pot where, you know, the same as cigarettes and alcohol. And I kind of think, holy smokes, lady, don't we realize that cigarettes and alcohol are really bad too? Like, I wouldn't have lumped them all together like that. Have you heard this ad, Laura?
Yeah, actually, I heard it this morning driving. I don't know. I mean, I guess it falls in line. I'm always proud the fact that we haven't gone down the road the way they have in the United States to that extent. But honestly, listening to both sides and the YouTube response on the he's not experienced enough, it's almost like it's like a Zoolander parody, these ads. I mean, they're just so ridiculous on both sides of the political spectrum, in my opinion. And I think most Canadians will probably see through them for being a bit over the top.
Well, what about attack ads?
Well, it shows that clearly the Conservatives are concerned about Trudeau. He's not the leader of the opposition. That's the NDP, and so they're a bit concerned about him. But it's strange that they continue to hit on this marijuana legalization as if it's something everyone's terrified of. 2/3 of Canada want it to be legal. In fact, it's something most people do support. So they're really only kind of pandering to their base and trying to build up against a threat that they see in Trudeau.
Okay, but I'm going to challenge you on that. If 2/3 of Canadians want it legal, why is Dana Larson having so much trouble filling up his petition?
Well, the referendum campaign is really difficult. You have to be a registered voter. You're only allowed to sign once. The people collecting signatures
They did it for the HST, though.
Yeah, but that's people being upset about their tax dollars. And like Dana said, no one wants to be sitting there while a cop watches them and follows them home after they sign it. People are concerned. They have a legitimate fear. You can lose your job, your house, your kids. You can lose your right to travel, all sorts of opportunities because of association with marijuana. People are nervous about it, and they have every right to be nervous about it. Guns are drawn on marijuana users. So they have a fear. And again, the referendum process is very difficult. They've made it almost impossible. You can't pay anyone to collect signatures. And in the U.S., in Washington State, they only needed 80,000 people to sign for their legalization. And here, you need almost 500,000. It's too much.
Yeah, well, they managed for HST, but clearly, you know, I dispute 2/3 of Canadians want it decriminalized.
Oh, polling shows, yeah, legalization, absolutely.
Well, polling. I mean, let's have a whole hour on how.
Let's ask everyone who works here. I'm sure that the numbers would pretty much be reflected the same way. It's not just polling; it's opinions of health officers, of law enforcement, of judges. Most people want it legal.
There's certainly a huge contingent, though, and Conservatives who are against it. But let's not focus too much on pot, because you'll just take right over.
That's right.
So let's play the Justin Trudeau response ad. You know, is in over his head or not? Have a listen.
By now, you might have heard the Conservatives say that I have the wrong priorities. They mean, of course, that I don't share their priorities. I couldn't agree more. My priority is the Canadians who built this country, the middle class, not the political class. My priority is an economy that benefits us all, not just a few. My priority is you. And if somebody says that that priority is wrong, then ask yourself, what are their priorities?
Terrible. It is. It's like BCIT flashbacks.
I mean, who was that advisor? You
I
just
don't know.
bring up the other guys.
But it's not even that. It's just even how the whole thing portrays. Like I say, both of them, it's almost embarrassing that this is if we're going to go into the attack ad world, which I don't think we should. I think we're better than that. But come on. Let's face facts. There's a whole ream of things we need to be talking about as Canadians. Failing infrastructure, education, health.
Real conversations.
Yeah,
Those are longer than 30-second conversations.
So our ad's going to be, he's a snappy dresser? Don't vote for him, he's not right. I just think it's ridiculous. Come on.
I'm sorry, he looked like a bad soap actor.
Yeah, he totally did. The lighting was weird. He almost looked animated.
The shadow in the background, all that. Yeah. But it is strange to see money being spent. Right now, it's not an election campaign, and yet
I know, that's the other thing, right?
Nobody wants to see
not even an election year.
No, I don't.
Oh
I agree with you.
Right.
I don't think Canadians want to see it.
Let's talk about police strapping on cameras. Good idea, bad idea?
Good if the videos are unedited, if they're always filming, if the police aren't allowed to manipulate them or chop them up to depict what they'd like to show. So, I mean, there are concerns about being filmed. People, I don't want a cop filming me without me knowing. But again, anytime
you're
you
filmed
go...
without you knowing all the time now.
Exactly. And so that's the argument saying, no, I'd prefer the cops be filmed because police brutality is something to be concerned about. And innocent people do get hurt by police and killed by police. So if cameras can maybe make everybody behave better, then why
Haven't
not?
some people removed cameras, though? San Francisco removed cameras.
think
They got all their officers' cameras, and then a year later, they backtracked and said, this isn't working.
And I believe that there was a number of test pilots across Canada, and I think Edmonton's the only one that's still currently using it. But I actually, not for the same reasons as Jodie, but I'm actually in favor of it. And you know what? I would go on record as saying I guarantee you that the frivolous police brutality lawsuits would drop by 3/4 if we actually saw these videos. If people were actually held accountable and these officers were allowed on the street. The one thing I caution is, I bet you every cop, every interaction is being filmed by somebody's iPhone.
Anyways, yeah.
And you know what? I think we need to start I remember 15 years ago when they started putting the cameras on the dashboards of cop cars, and you know what happened? People actually realized the crap these guys were putting up with on the roadside. And it didn't work in the public's favor, it worked in the cops' favor, and I bet you that would happen.
Well, and that's what I think this is in part, because you know what? I think for most police forces, they've had too many instances of public video, you know, people with iPhones or cameras said, hey, I got video of this.
And they've got 15 seconds out of a 7-minute interaction. And I think when you take a still photo, it portrays a certain thing that it maybe doesn't give context. And I think if you edit down, if the public's out there with videos, I think the cops should be armed with that.
I think it's
I'm
a
still
good
very grateful.
concept, but I wonder if it will be successful once they actually put it into place.
I think they're going to have to pay cops more. Why? Would you want to walk around with a lapel thing recording your day-to-day interactions at work?
And I'm glad for public video, particularly in the Giesz-Ramsay case, and I'll leave it there. Let's move on to the Rob Ford bobbleheads, because how could we not talk about this today? People lined up to get this ridiculous bobblehead, and then they're selling them on eBay.
Well, they're raising money for charity.
And I think
so
that's
sweet,
a great
Jodie.
part of it. But had the Rob Ford scandal not erupted in the last 2 weeks, no one would have bought these.
This goes to show that even someone like Rob Ford can do horrible things and do all sorts of embarrassing things, and yet the Conservatives didn't go quickly to condemn him to prison, and it shows that Canadians know people suffer from alcohol problems and all sorts of issues, but we need to help them and be supportive and compassionate. And poor Rob Ford, I mean, people just find him kind of funny, but you know what? Let's see what he does now that he's trying to redeem himself. Maybe he'll do some great
He should step
stuff.
aside and get the help he needs. I agree 100% that people need to get well. I think you have to respect the office to which you are elected, and you need to respect the fact that people are dying right now somewhere in the world over the right to vote and have a democratically elected. And when your personal life has interfered with your ability to do their job the way it's done to those poor citizens of Toronto,
While
it
their
is
mayor is in
disgusting.
a drunken stupor. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you, ladies. Jodie Emery, Laura Balance, and Lee Checkstead. Thanks for dropping by. Coming up, why they're pulling their support for one of the organizations named in Mary Ellen Turple-Lafon's report. We're hearing from the Grand Chief, a president of the Stolo Nation, next.